What's up, everybody? This episode of the podcast, we have a special guest. We're going to get to that in just a second. Rosie, how you doing, man?
Doing well.
Good. We're going to say that again in a second. Hello, everybody. That sounded like...
Don't do that ever again.
Did you ever see the movie Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It was the first trans-friendly movie.
Yeah.
They should probably love that movie.
What about was it the Crying Game?
Oh, yeah. That was like way serious, though.
Yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire was like poking fun at it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Robin.
He wanted to get back with his wife too. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
With that story. Hello.
So still straight.
Yeah. He was still straight. He was not a trap. Wait, I don't know.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah.
Definitely not.
It would have been a trap.
It would have been a trap for her. Yeah. That's so. Wait. No. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's funny how that story came to be.
it is. Isn't
Why
it?
they call it traps.
Yeah. I know.
I'm not going to go into.
We're
it.
not. Just Google it. You'll be fine.
Don't Google it. This is a Christian show. We don't Google that.
That's right.
I can't believe you said it.
Oh, man.
Anyways.
All right. You know what that means?
Yes. So, our baby.
Yes.
Oh, if we have any new listeners,
Yeah.
we do. We've been going through the weeks of a pregnancy because we're super pro-life, and we are showing you every step of the way
That's right.
what our fictional baby that we found out last week is a girl,
Yeah.
and we go through each week and what to expect when baby's coming.
Yeah.
Because
Last week was rough. I was feeling those morning sicknesses. So
yeah, but yeah, so super pro-life. Life begins at conception, prior to conception.
preach it.
But anyways, yeah, so this week our baby girl, sadly,
You're gonna give her a complex.
Yeah,
she can sense these
I'll
things.
love her.
She can sense these things in the
whatever.
womb.
So 22 weeks, baby is as big as a red bell pepper.
All right.
It says, though the eyelids are still sealed shut, the baby can perceive light and dark now. Shine a flashlight on your tummy, see if she moves.
All right.
It says, babies can't. Well, there you go. Babies ears can hear and process sounds.
Yeah. See, I told you.
And they can grab. They start grabbing.
Oh.
Yeah. So there you go. We still have 8. We are past the hump. We have 18 weeks to go.
Well, I have an idea. Since her size is a bell pepper.
Yeah.
What if we call her Belle?
We'll have to discuss this.
Your silence is deafening.
I'm going to raise her as a boy. It's going to come out.
You can't do that.
Yeah. How about I name him Sebastian instead of Belle? Get it?
Sebastian.
Wasn't Belle and Sebastian a band?
Sebastian Bach.
Oh, whatever.
Sebastian was a guy that was like he was an 80s rocker in a band called Dokken, I think, or Sebastian.
Belle and Sebastian is a thing.
Is it an 80s rock band?
90s from Scotland.
Oh, well,
anyways.
whatever. Sorry, I'm stuck in the
That's
80s.
all right.
You know why I'm stuck in the 80s?
Smoking that sticky green stuff.
We had to work it in, and we always work that in.
We do every time.
Even if it's not good.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we got a...
Dude, you know what that means?
Yeah, you cut me off with it.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to restart it?
No, it's okay.
Hold on. Oh. Such a trap. Talk about a trap.
You just blew out everyone's ears.
I know.
Well, anyways, that means we have a guest on the phone.
Hey.
So we have Samantha Sullivan.
Yeah.
She's a writer at The Blaze, and you will hear that after the introduction when we explain that to you again. Anyways, it was very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun interview.
She's cool. She's very cool. Recommend going on Blaze and checking out her
writing
art. Yeah, her articles, because they're good, really good.
Very good.
I sound like an idiot.
It's okay.
They're good. Anyways, cool. So
everything's out of the way.
Everything's out of the way. Got the baby update, and we'll catch you on the flip side. So sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy.
You're listening to the All Out War podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of All Out War. I am Turner, and I'm in the studio with Rosie. What's up, Rosie?
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Doing well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm doing pretty good. The Redskins won today.
We did.
And I think Dallas lost, which is always a bonus for us.
Yes.
You know, as
Oh, sorry.
I said that on purpose. Totally. Our guest will get a kick out of that. But hey, man, what do you know?
Hey, did you know that there is a place in Florida, a city, known, the official title, Vernon, Florida. It is known as Nub City because there is this craze of all these poor people having their limbs removed so they could get insurance money. And it's like known. So they call this place Nub City because like all the people there just started doing it so they can get on this insurance payout.
That is so ridiculous.
So they have all these nubs.
I wonder what the most popular nub to remove is. Like, you got to think it through. Like, does it count for a finger, or do you have to, like, an entire limb?
Limbs.
Wow.
Limbs, yeah.
Man.
Got all these double amputees. I mean, I guess, would every spot be
another
a handicap spot?
Right. Oh, yeah, true. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Man.
so there you go. So there you go. Nub City.
Yeah, Nub City. Oh, man. Well, I'm excited about this episode of the podcast. We have a wonderful guest. I'm going to let you introduce, since you personally are friends, and I just wanted to. So I'm going to kick it over to you, man.
Yeah. So we are very blessed to have on the line Samantha Sullivan. She is.
Yeah.
Hey, she was the one giggling in the background, and she is a staff writer at The Blaze, or just Blaze now, whatever it is, with the adjective or whatever it is. But anyway, she writes at Blaze, and she also does all sorts of digital content stuff behind the scenes. So she is an integral part of the whole shebang down there in where you are. I don't want to. I was just about to say where it is, but yeah, down in Texas, down south. But yeah. So I mean, to start it off, we always to introduce you to our guest, or not our guest, the listeners. How did you get started in working for the Blaze? That's if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I was always interested in politics. And so I did like a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in journalism. Not that you need that to do anything that I'm doing, but that's what I thought I needed to do. So I just spent time writing in college and kind of getting a feel for the landscape. And then when I graduated, I just kind of looked for a job for like a year, and I think I applied at the Blaze about 3 times, and I finally got the call the 3rd time, and I got hired in 2017, and yeah, I've just been going since then.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like. Yeah. I really like that. There's so to any people out there, I was going to say this. I hear this question often, that sometimes just apply and you'll get a job. Right. And sometimes it's really cool. So that's really cool that.
I love that you knew what you wanted to do, because you said you applied 3 times. So you must have really been drawn to that.
Oh yeah. And it was like, so I knew I wanted to do news and politics. I didn't care like which form it was going to look like to get my foot in the door, whether it was social media or copy editing or actually getting to write. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I got rejected from, I had over 50 to 100 interviews, like throughout the industry. And it was like getting really bad at the end because your bills are all due. So, I took like a small job. I took like a job at a flower shop, and then it just wasn't for me. And then like helping him with social media. And then like, I just wasn't having a good time. Like it was just awful. And I just took a risk and I quit. And then like a day or 2 later, I saw the opening at the Blaze, and then I just applied, and like within a month I was hired. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what did you start doing? Did you start off like in the mail room, or how'd that work out?
Oh no, it wasn't that bad. I didn't have to start off there, but so I started off as a content marketing writer. So basically, I would just package all of the shows for the website so people could find them and highlight, the topical issues that the hosts were discussing that day. And then it morphed into a more digital role. So like went from writing for the website, like pretty much like a ghostwriter, right? For the website under the host name, to like the Facebook, more of like the face of kind of like the public facing stuff. So like Facebook, Twitter, and then the website. So yeah, it's always evolving. But I started, like, I really wanted to write under my own name. So then I started putting out my columns last October. And so, I've gotten like a pretty positive response. So just keep doing it and keep going. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I was going to say, prior to starting the long pieces, it's funny because so people were reading your words, but they didn't even know it, which is kind of cool to think about that. Tons of people were reading your stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a really great place.
So maybe the next question to kind of go into that is, I stay up to date with news. I'm fairly active in the conservative, so obviously you're conservative if you work for the Blaze, right? Is
right.
that accurate? Okay.
Yeah.
So, keeping up to date with everything, I was going to say there's not too many that I can think of. I'm thinking of a couple, maybe I can count them on, if I had to, on two hands, the number of women that are conservative that actually write and contribute to the culture other than, just being like, hey, I'm a conservative girl and I like football and beer, and then saying, stuff like that, and just, not really contributing anything. You're writing stuff, you're doing stuff, you're actually in it. I mean that all in a very positive way. I'm not trying to demean anybody, but I'm just saying, like, you see all these, like e-girls or stuff like that don't actually really know what they're talking about, or anything like that. So how is being a conservative woman in actually working in the space like? Because there's just so many guys. It's just so male dominated.
Yeah, it is male dominated. I never really thought about it, honestly. I've always tried to follow writers that I admire or leaders that I admire. And then I would read a lot of liberal publications in college, and I still read, even though I complain about the New York Times all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I read everything they write because they are good writers, and I need to know what it is they're thinking, because I already know what our side's thinking, because I know I'm in my little conservative bubble on Twitter. But yeah, I try and find people that I look up to. I'm not really into the outrage machine. So I can tell you one thing, if I see someone yelling at a phone camera, I'm the first to turn that off. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. I just try to be careful and mindful, and talk to people in my pieces the same as I would talk to them face to face or in person.
Right.
I think, yeah, it's just knowing, I guess, I don't know. It's having enough self-awareness to, when you're tweeting something or writing something, to know that you don't know it all. And it's absolutely true when someone says the more you learn or the more you read, the less you actually know.
Right.
So, it's just coming at it like that, and seeing other people's mistakes, or saying things that I don't like, or someone putting out something that's super damaging without hardly a thought to it. or something like that. So I don't know. I'm very observant of like what everyone's doing or not doing. And so I just kind of try and craft like whatever I'm saying based on what I'm observing.
Right. And I was going to say the kind of follow up to that is I respect you on Twitter because exactly you're not jumping in and all of a sudden it's a breath of fresh air. And I just had to say it that it's just, jumping on the latest thing and putting out substantive work. So I was just going to say that I appreciate that. And it's interesting to see how, how you think when stuff comes up that not the quick to.
What I'm amazed at is that a majority that we're getting out there now is just editorial pieces that it's really not news. Like they're not telling me what is actually happening. It's always like what's happening buried underneath a preface of my opinion and why I believe this, and then by the way, this is happening, and then at the end they want to prop up everything else that they were promoting beforehand. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so frustrating to filter that out through. And so whenever somebody actually does research and finds facts on things and really puts those things out there as real information, it always is helpful for me. And I just have way more respect when I'm reading a piece like that versus, editorial. I call them puff, but I mean, I need that we need that a little bit because some of them are very thought provoking,
Yeah.
But I just feel like everything's that way now.
Yeah.
I was going to say one thing that was really interesting, and I know you wrote, like you said, the whole piece about the fact that you still read the New York Times, which, I mean, I'm not, obviously, if you're still reading it now, I can't convince you to stop. But I was going to say, what, I don't know, do you think that that's something our side is missing? The fact that because I'll be the first to admit as well, like you said, you're a little conservative cocoon. I'm the same way. I know I live in an echo chamber, and I fully embrace that, and I know that. I do have, that's what I care about. That's why I use social media, in this particular thing, and read the pieces I read because I want to. I don't care enough about what the other side's saying. But do you think that that's something that's missing, that we are so out of touch with what what liberals are actually saying? Do you think, would you recommend that more people read stuff?
That's tough. I mean, because I can read a New York Times piece and I'll get some really valuable information out of it. And then so maybe 80 or I don't know, let's say 60% of what I read, I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't know that. But then 40% I'm basically rolling my eyes because I know they're framing it in a way that is more lenient or whatever to the left. Right. Yeah. So, there's been so many pieces where or the Daily, I'll listen to the Daily. So I try and listen to the Potomac Watch by the Wall Street Journal in the morning and then the Daily because they always they're different publications. One's owned by News Corp and supposed to be conservative or have Wall Street interests. And then of course you have the New York Times that, they're very, very liberal. So then, I'll listen to the podcast and then see how they framed it. And then, what information did the Wall Street Journal highlight that the New York Times didn't highlight, and vice versa. So I don't know. It's hard to speak for every conservative. I mean, I know I've definitely gotten from conservatives why are you reading Mother Jones?
Right.
And I'm I know, you're right, but there are some things that I feel you should know their arguments. Right. I mean, because I feel they make your argument stronger.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know what they're thinking. I mean, I agree with you, Rosie. I think that there's a benefit to knowing what other people are thinking, especially if you're going to engage in any type of debate or.
Well, I mean, Sun Tzu wrote about how you have to understand your enemy in order to
Exactly.
know what you're up against.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say like no sign enemy, but then I didn't want to call him our enemy, right? Because they're like all Americans too. But I'm like, yeah. So that's pretty much what I preface it on is that.
Well, I'll say it. There are enemies, and so I'll take it. You know, you didn't say it. I said it. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, if they're commies, then they're enemies, and if they're promoting that, then they're enemies. That's where we stand.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No
Commies
problem
for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so this is another interesting kind of segue in talking about this weird culture, I guess if you will, or the milieu of current politics that really happens mostly on social media. That we have talked, you and I had talked a little bit about this phenomenon of, I heard the best term was displaced lefties, that were like these people that are, they're liberal, and then all of a sudden but the Democrat Party is so far left that now they're basically trying to be, I guess we're embracing them, conservatives, we're embracing them, but it's I don't like it. And not that I'm like this super stringent, like you have to agree on tariffs to be, agree with me 100% to be considered a conservative in my eyes or something like that. But there's this really weird phenomenon of people that are like, oh, I'm not even really fully pro-life, but I want to be, and now all of a sudden we're like lauding them as these brilliant people on the right. Like, do you see that? Do you see if there is a place for that? Do you think that that's good that we're doing that? That do you think our values as conservatives are weakening because we're letting this dilution of everything? Does that make sense? The question?
Yeah. So I've struggled with that too, right? Because at first I was like, okay, you saw some of these people go from the Democratic Party, or they felt like the Democratic Party left them, so they're kind of like hanging in the middle. And so the right embraced them because they rejected the radical ideals that the left is championing right now. So like I understand that they feel that they were left, but at the same time, I don't know what is the right fascination with these people. Okay, so their party left them, but like they're not embracing our values, and I don't even know what they believe. But they're attacking like both sides, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know how it's helpful to us to entertain like people stuck that way, because I'm not like who's like on fire for someone who doesn't really know what they believe, but now they're playing like both sides or something.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
What I was gonna say is it's when I read their Twitter feeds, some of these like people are coming to mind right now. It's like the biggest thing that stands out to me is just critical, like everything. I rarely will see a praise about on either side, whether it's Republican or Democrat. You'll just see criticism on both sides, and it's almost like a I hate to say it this way, but we haven't named any names, so that's cool. So it's no one. If you take offense, then maybe you should. But it's almost like holier than thou. Like my moral stance is so much better than yours, and they're doing it wrong. Like like the perfect example is like this whole thing that happened just with pulling out of the Kurds in Turkey and pulling out of Syria. That people were criticizing the pulling out of, which I agree. I think the Kurds, we needed them to be strengthened, and to I didn't want to abandon them. And even though they're not necessarily 100% pro-American, they're not anti-American. So
I would interject and say they are 100% pro-American.
Well, when we were there's sides to this too, right?
I threw that in there to prove you love show.
Right. Yeah. But I just noticed that people were like, oh, and then I see people on the other side saying, well, where were you when Obama did this and it affected the Kurds or whatever, you know? And it's just like, come on, like that's just probably a really bad example that I just gave, but it was on top of my head, so I apologize. But anyways, they seem holier than thou.
So it's like, or the whataboutism. That's the thing. I don't know, like, entirely what's the value of the right giving them, like, space on their platforms all the time, because I don't think it doesn't strengthen us in any valuable way that I see. Like, okay, like, you're lukewarm. I don't even know what you believe, but you're just mudslinging both sides. Like, to me, like, from the movement's perspective, I don't see any value in other than maybe they say, or they have a few good tweets and they have, like, way more followers, but they don't actually contribute, like, to any thought leadership. So yeah, I'm in a weird place with that too, because I've met some of these people and, like, I really enjoy their, you know, conversations and whatever in their backgrounds and hearing about them, but at the same time I'm just like,
go away.
I don't know. Like, if I had, like, a national show, I probably wouldn't give them airtime.
Right, exactly. I was gonna say, like, there's this perfect example, which I don't mind naming this name, Jordan Peterson. Like, this, he was just a perfect example in my mind, because this is this academic who, I mean, he's in Canada, but they're worse than we are. You have, like, this lifelong academic who was an open socialist. He's a lefty. He's always been a leftist. He's still a lefty. And all of a sudden he gets praised, like, and now all of a sudden he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month by telling, like, what did he get big on? He said, I'm not going to
make your bed.
No. He said before that he went viral because he said, I'm not going to call you by this made up pronoun. You're being silly.
Oh, right.
And then all of a sudden he's like, this guy, this open socialist professor that's been in academia his whole life, who's a psychiatrist, which is that's even a very left-leaning. It's hard to find conservative.
Right.
I don't want to say therapists because there's some, you know, church-related ones like that, but that academia is very leftist. And all of a sudden, we're praising him as being the new face of this right-wing movement. Yeah, clean your bed, something about lobsters. And it doesn't make sense. You're like, this guy's a socialist.
He's going to make men out of the millennials or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so absurd. So I'm glad.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Well, like, with him, like, I feel like, okay, so I didn't, like, have my mind made up about Jordan Peterson. I was following his work too. Like, my husband has the 12 Rules for Life, read it, said it was good. But yeah, well, like, so I guess for the right, I think there's, like, this phenomenon on the right where someone says something that we like, and suddenly we kind of just focus on that one thing. Like, so he said he wouldn't use pronouns if the government compelled him to, right? So he used the Canadian human rights something. So he said that, and then I guess, it caught fire, went viral, I guess. So he gets invited to, I guess, Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin or something. Yeah. And then so people gravitate toward that one good thing that he said, right? Because, like, it lines up with their values or their ideologies. And then we just kind of throw out, like, the rest. Like, we just overlook everything prior to that. So I'm guilty of it too, because I don't know. I guess I saw people embracing him. So I thought, okay, well, yeah. So I think I'm definitely guilty of the Jordan Peterson stuff too.
I think he got a lot of us. I just didn't like him ever because he's Canadian. And I'm just kidding. There's some good Canadians out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners in Canada. What am I talking about? All you guys are super awesome. That was a joke. You guys should become Americans, and we'll send all the socialists out there. We'll trade you.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to be Canadian anymore. So there you go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to, what made me, speaking of Canada and communists, I read your article on Blaze about Hong Kong, and I want to talk about this a little bit because it's near and dear to my heart. I happened to be in China a few years ago, let's see, I guess it was about 5 years ago, during the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. And
what happened? What was that? I don't know what you're talking about. The what square?
Oh, right, yeah.
The what square?
The victory of Mother China. But
wait, can I say something really funny?
Please.
So I got this is a tip, and I will give this to anybody.
Yeah.
So I got all these. I'm sorry, we'll get back to this. But I started getting spammed by all these 100 followers that were all Chinese. And they all had like 1 or 2 followers, and they're all posting like weird selfies and all this stuff. But it was all within like a month. I got 100 new Chinese Twitter followers. And so I tweeted out all these things in Chinese, and I just kept spamming it for like 2 days. I was like, Tiananmen Square, like bing bong, whatever in Chinese. And all of a sudden, I lost all these followers. So I think if you get a bunch of Chinese spammers, if you start looking up forbidden words in Chinese and you spam that in your Twitter feed, it will come up in their Twitter feed and it'll be kicked offline. So that's a good way to deal with Chinese hackers or spammers. So anyways, continue with that.
What you didn't realize is they were actually reaching out for help. They were actually patriots trying to break free from communists. Maybe this patriotic American will help us if we reach out to him. So you did it yourself.
Whatever.
But anyways, all right. So I read through your article on Hong Kong, and I love you mentioned in there about the percentage of, like, there was a rating for, like, Hong Kong was like 8 out of 10 free versus China, which was like 2 out of 10 free in terms of like a scale. And I look over there that's happening, and I watch the news, and it just breaks my heart to see people that are desperate to be free, and they're willing to really risk their lives on that. And I just don't understand why there's not more support on our end, from, like, give me some insight on that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel as soon as I started reading about the Hong Kong protesters, I mean, it started right with a viral video of them singing the national anthem. Mm-hmm. So then I think I probably saw that on Twitter. So I started paying more attention and, like, reading the coverage from there and reading their grievances. And I took like one Chinese politics class, but I don't remember anything. So I had to I had to go back and like read about it and, the history of it. And, like as soon as I read about it, it just struck me, like, you have people here who want to instill the very things like these people are running from. And I don't like what strikes me too is our president tweeting like whatever he tweeted, like,
oh man,
happy 70 years China, while this Hong Kong stuff is going on. And I've been like kind of disappointed that he hasn't been more pro Hong Kong, but of course, like, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? We've got this whole trade stuff happening. So I don't know what Trump's thing is with Hong Kong, but yeah, I agree with you. I wish there was way more support for them than what we're seeing.
Well, he's playing 4D chess. So right now what he's doing, he's setting them up so that he can take out Biden with all of his Chinese connections. But
I mean, that's a good point. But
what I was thinking though is he did tweet out yesterday something about a deal that he made with China that will be so good for our farmers that we may not even be able to produce enough food for them or something. And so I know he's working something, but that still bugs me because, I loved Reagan's approach towards Russia. Let's literally make them so impoverished that they can't have any choice but to break down their government, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so he started buying all
Yeah.
the gold and basically breaking them. And like, I don't understand why we don't take a better approach to that. You know, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I'm curious, like, too, what is, like, this is like the one period of time where I'd love to be in college because,
Yeah.
right, like, I went to a super liberal college here in Dallas, and it was always, you know, America is the colonizer, capitalism's bad,
Wow.
all that nonsense. And what's it called? So I would love to be in a college classroom to get to hear like what professors are saying about this stuff, because you have people here that, like, right, we banned books, right, To Kill a Mockingbird. I think I just saw The Color Purple was banned, like Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt like there was so many, like, so we're doing it voluntarily, I think, while China, like Hong Kong, or no, China is doing it to Hong Kong. So I read one article about how they were kidnapping booksellers. It was straight from Fahrenheit, right? Was it
451?
451. Yeah. So it was straight out of the book. Like, these people were, so these booksellers, they were like the rebels, which is so cool, right? Because like you think of books and like book nerds, whatever. But they're like the rebels over there. So they were publishing things that were not so complimentary to the Chinese regime. And so they would literally kidnap them and imprison them in China. And just like some would disappear for like years. And it was just all for selling books. So it's weird to see like their society slipping into what I feel like people on the far left over here want us to be.
Right.
So that's what struck me about Hong Kong and, you know, the whole article.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's so, it's just such a good contrast. I mean, it really is I can't think of a more perfect embodiment of just the contrast, right? So you have these guys in Hong Kong that are living under this totalitarian leftist regime, and they're fighting for freedom, and they have these signs where they're like, we wish we had the Second Amendment, you know, and stuff like this. And
wow, I hadn't seen that yet.
Oh yeah, I think that was one of the first ones. And but yeah, I saw this huge sign, and they're singing the American national anthem. They're raising, the American flags. All this. I know. It's so. I just got goosebumps thinking about that. That sounds so corny, but so you have these guys that are literally fighting. And the cops are shooting them and stuff. Like, there's people that have been seriously injured from this totalitarian regime over there. So they're currently living underneath it. And I think it's different than Venezuela, because Venezuela, they're just like, we're poor, but we don't have any food. And there wasn't this ability to rise up because they didn't have any freedom at all. But you look at Hong Kong, and they still, because they're, I don't know, semi-sovereign sort of entity where they did still have some freedoms, especially economic. But, you have these freedom fighters and all this stuff that are championing conservative American values that literally, well, I think that's a double, the conservative values are American values, and American values are conservative. So it's kind of double speak there. But, and then you have Americans that live in this system that are openly, like, they want that. They want Chinese, like, it's the perfect analogy. We have these leftist people that they can't, they want China, like exactly what you said, the burning the books and stuff. We're doing this voluntarily, and they're fighting. They're going to be in prison. The Chinese government does all sorts of stuff with the, I always mess this up, the Uyghurs or whatever. I can't.
The Uyghurs.
Yeah. And the guys from Falun Gong, that religion where they're harvesting their body parts and selling them, which is a whole other thing. But it's such a amazing contrast that people still over here will not We have, like the current controversy. I know you're aware of it with the, these different companies, like the NBA is the biggest one here, but like openly bowing the knee to China purely for economic reasons. It's, that's the biggest one to me, I think.
And I think they have like the biggest egg in their face because I wrote that tweet, like they come stateside and they can, go to North Carolina and tell them like, yeah, we're not going to have whatever game that they were going to have there because you don't allow men and women's bathrooms or whatnot. And then you had like PayPal do something similar. They didn't want to build some offices somewhere. I don't know, because the state values didn't align with the progressive ones. And like, so they can act really like hoity-toity here and say those bold things, right? And position themselves as these progressive companies. But when it comes to China, I mean, they literally, like a dog, put their tail between their legs and put their head down and apologize to communists who killed, 40 million? Like, it dwarfs the Holocaust or something.
Yeah.
And they're totally like, I mean, it's funny, like when something real and valuable is at stake, they're not so, what's the word? Bold
right
in their convictions.
Well,
it's just amazing.
And China will just hold up that money bag in front of them. It's all about money.
Exactly.
And they do have a ton of money you have 1 billion people and they have a propped up economy. It's not as great as everyone thinks it is.
It's
so
fake.
But there is money there, and they're willing to they're going to hold it out in front of them, I wanted to throw my phone the other day because of Steve Kerr, the NBA coach, who basically said, someone asked him about when he was in China or whatever, asking them, or was he ever asked questions about things? And he was like, we need to focus on our own human rights, atrocities and things. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? This guy's lost his mind. And it's like their perception of reality is so skewed. I just don't understand it. If you've seen anyone or known anyone that's lived under communist rule, they don't want it. They want freedom, and they're willing to die for it. And to think that there's a whole segment of our culture that is in our political spectrum as well that are willing to try and march us into that, man, it's really scary.
That's a good segue into cancel culture too, because China has this social credit score system where you're not going to be able to do anything if you didn't praise the party enough, or I don't know, if you're not enthusiastic enough when the military comes marching through the streets. I don't know. But then we have like this whole cancel culture here where people are digging through people's old tweets and jokes and things. And basically, I mean, you guys probably saw what happened with that guy from, who was it that he raised all this money for the children's hospital? Yeah. And then I don't know, like I guess he deleted the tweet about Daniel Tosh, and like I used to watch Daniel Tosh, and like I think I tweeted about his jokes or whatever. So like that. So the reporter, whoever, dug up his old tweets, and then basically Anheuser-Busch and whoever canceled or severed ties with him. Gosh. Even after he had expressed remorse.
Right.
So that's like the self-voluntary social credit system here that they're doing in China, which I don't understand. I mean, don't you want someone to be remorseful about something dumb they might have laughed at or said? Which, I'm sorry, but if it's comedy, don't you get a pass because it's comedy?
Not anymore.
Or if it was said like 5 years ago, come on, let's.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the kid is in college, so he's less than 22 years old.
Right.
Well, presumably. I mean, I didn't finish college. Presumably, he looked like he was really young. And yeah, I didn't actually see the tweet either. But I was going to say that was a really cool incident in the fact that after it, well, my favorite part was the writer who actually found the tweet. A whole bunch of people found old tweets of his where he like straight up said like the N-word and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, and then he actually did get fired from the newspaper. I don't know if anyone found that. So that was one of these things that, again, and I think we said it in the beginning, you know, we're not fans of cancel culture, but I do have to say I was relishing in the irony that he lost his job too, and I'm happy about that.
It's so ridiculous. It's like the snake eating its tail, right? You know, it's just gonna... Oh my god.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy. But hey, so how about to switch completely into the different thing that I wanted to talk about, because you just saw this the other day, and I know this is completely off topic, but whatever, who cares? You saw Joker, I saw Joker. Turner has not seen Joker because he's a loser and wasn't scared of getting shot in a movie.
What?
No, it's obviously because you're scared and you didn't want to get shot.
Hold up. I have a life. I have a family.
Yeah,
I have kids.
Whatever.
I have a job.
Whatever. But I have not been able to talk about it. We haven't talked about it on the podcast yet. So you just saw it. And I also, maybe it's kind of also, I'm trying to think if I'm being as slick with the segues as I'm trying to be, that it's sort of cancel culture, because people got super pissed about it. Like all these leftists and liberal people were like, this is terrible. I mean, even just the fact that we were joking about getting shot in a movie, that they were saying, you know, I was going to say, I said this before, which doesn't make sense to me. The fact that they're saying all these loner incels are really happy that the Joker movie is coming up, right? Because it's going to empower these white male incels. But white male incels are going to be the only ones that go see the movie. So why would a white male incel go shoot up a movie theater full of white male incels at the... So I never really got that logic of it, because he'd just be... Like, those would be the people, presumably, that he would be cool with, you know, the one people that understand him. But all jokes aside, so what did you think about it? Do you think that it was, because I saw this other video this guy was talking about, that it actually was not as transgressive or like our movie as maybe we made it out to be, but what were your thoughts on it?
So I saw all of the horrible takes before the movie and like the rise of incel violence or whatever. But yeah, okay, even if like that were to happen, practically, what do? Do you stop making movies because some crazy person might take that as a rallying call and go do something egregious? Like, what do? We just stop making any good movies? Like I think there was like another controversy with some Tarantino film.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what does he do? Like, he's just going to tailor it to what people might do after they watch it? I don't know. That's crazy. But no, yeah, I saw it, and it's like, okay, so even if they think that would inspire incel violence, like, does that still, so are they acknowledging that perhaps, like, this is crazy, like, I'm just gonna throw this out there, but like, are they acknowledging that perhaps like the lone wolf mass shooters could be treated terribly by society and do something horrific that leads to horrific killings like that? I mean, I don't know. That was just my thought on that.
I haven't seen it, so I need to add, is it possible? So this is just my input, and if I'm off,
without spoilers?
Well, no, I haven't seen it, so how can I spoil it?
Yeah, I was just trying to spoil it.
So is it possible that them putting a face to this terror subject, this terrorist, because he's basically, I'm assuming he becomes a terrorist, right? I mean, I know what he does in the other movies, but they put a face to him, right? So they humanize this guy. And we don't want to humanize these people that go in and shoot up a mosque or a synagogue or a church or whatever. We don't want to humanize these guys. We want them to be monsters and, unredeemable or whatever. You think that's part of the problem, that people aren't connecting that way? Because I heard that it just makes him look human. Like, I because he's treated so poorly, right?
Yeah.
Like a dog that gets kicked around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So is there so your question, is there a problem with making them human, or
I have no idea what I'm asking. No, I guess I'm making a statement. I'm like, maybe I think people get mad because we put a human face to, and it's not the typical, like if it was a trans person and we were putting a human face to that person, then there would be all this like, this is amazing. It's, but because it's somebody who's actually like
a white male. He is white.
Yeah, white male.
Right.
He's probably hetero.
He is.
Yeah. So because of that, it's like, he's a Nazi, right? He can't be a good guy. He can't have feelings. Like, I think that's what it is.
And I was going to say, you brought up a really good point, Samantha, about and maybe this is here in all of my brilliance and just trying to understand you. I'm just kidding. My unmatched wisdom. Yes.
There you go.
I'm president. No, yeah. Anyways, I was going to say the thing about humanizing him and what you had said about the movie is, why would we want to try to understand, these guys that are, would presumably go shoot up these people, do these horrible crimes. Why would we try to humanize them, as opposed to just, crap on them more from the media? Because it's, the movie's not even out, but it's for them. And automatically these guys are going to go shoot up the movie theater. So we're, just crapping on them more when there's a movie that comes out that might actually make people understand, what some of these people, because I don't think this is giving anything away from the movie that people wouldn't gather from the trailers, that he had a bad life, and he grew up with lives with his mom, his old mom. There's presumably no father in the picture, which is a thing. So he comes from a broken home. He gets beat up by kids that steal a sign. This is in the trailer. I'm trying to think of stuff that's all in the trailer. So he just gets crapped on. He's in this crappy job. He's in this crappy job. He just has this crappy life, and all of a sudden he snaps. Presumably, maybe that's what the trailer might lead you to believe. So, why would we try to understand and maybe help these guys if this is a really good portrayal of what these people in real life, because these guys in real life seem to be latching on to, right? Yeah. Like if this is accurate to them, wouldn't more people like these liberals that are, we need to help everybody.
Yeah. Right.
You would want to see it. So maybe you get a grasp of what these guys they can't say, they can't say this is what's wrong with me or, all this stuff. I mean,
I think that's a really great point.
Yeah. So maybe, is that what you're trying to say, Turner?
I don't know what I was saying. I already said that. I don't have unmatched wisdom.
No.
But, is he like an anti-hero in this thing, or what's his? Okay, so.
But it does humanize him. Yeah. And I was going to say, so this is a watch my unmatched wisdom and sleekness into pivoting yet again from this movie, perhaps, is that you said you live in Texas, and I know you wrote this piece that, and I don't want to, I hate going from kind of lightheartedness to a very serious topic, but we were talking about like the church shooting, the Texas church shooting. You wrote a piece about the El Paso stuff that I saw Ted Cruz, my man Ted, shared, but what about like, so you guys, my U.S. state geography is so big. I know Texas is really big, but I mean, presumably there was, and don't give any, I don't know anything. But how did that, cause like that whole, you guys went through that, like in Texas. I don't think we had one, I don't know if we've had a mass shooting here in our area.
The Capitol, we had where the senators got shot, but
the
baseball game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I was going to say, you guys have had a lot of that down there, and obviously you wrote that piece about El Paso, the shooting there, and can you just talk a little bit about that? Like all that craziness?
Yeah. So the shooting happened on August 3rd. I was having lunch with like my husband and my in-laws, and we were going like to a Ranger game that day. And then it was about 11 o'clock, and then I started seeing tweets about something active. There was an active situation in El Paso, and we have like a military base there, or not we, but like I used to live there. I moved away when I was about 21. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we do have military there. So sometimes if there is violence in El Paso, sometimes it'll have to do with military personnel.
Right.
So when I saw like an active shooter somewhere, I thought, okay, well, maybe it could be like domestic violence or something that's going on. But then I saw like more reports come in, and then the news just kept getting worse. And so I have family still there, and it was the Saturday before the back to school stuff. So I have my aunt's a teacher, and then my grandma typically likes to shop on the weekends and get out of the house. Mm-hmm. So immediately I just started. I've never sent so many "Are you safe?" text messages in my life. I was texting every friend I knew, because even though El Paso, it's a city, it's on the corner of Texas, but it's kind of like its own little island, right? It's 8 hours from Dallas, and so you have Dallas, which is only 2 hours from Austin, which is only like, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours from San Antonio. Mm-hmm. So you have the big metropolitan, like probably like the center of the political scene, right? And Austin, super far from El Paso. So, so when the report started coming in, I got a hold of my grandma. She was okay. And then I got a hold of my aunt. She was out shopping, but she wasn't at that Walmart. Mm. And El Paso's like the biggest small town you'll ever visit. It's like 600,000 people, but somehow someone's connected to someone, or knows someone, or knows your uncle, or knows your cousin. It's just crazy. It's just indescribable. So, I just had a terrible reaction, like seeing the horror just come out of the city. And I've been to that Walmart several times. When I lived in my dorm at UTEP, mm-hmm. I would go to that Walmart because it's central. And it's super busy, but it's centrally located. You know, you can pretty much any side of town you're going to, you're going to pass it.
Right.
So, I'd been there several times. And so I just had this overwhelming feeling like I need to get home. This is just bizarre, because it's, I guess one thing that's striking about El Paso, and that you heard in the reports, is that it's safe. Right. I could walk around downtown in the middle of the night in El Paso and not worry about a single thing. I could leave my car unlocked, and I didn't really worry. Like, I mean, I could be like a naive college 20-something, 18-something, right? And be just so careless. And, you know, you were fine for the most part in El Paso. You know, I'm sure, like, there's always the outliers. But so I rushed home. I got a ticket. And my grandma was super upset. She would watch the news and just cry, like, because she just couldn't believe it. And it happened early in the morning, so there was like a lot of old people who, you know, were unfortunately killed. Mm-hmm. And so I got there, and I wasn't planning on writing a piece, but I was just so moved watching the whole community come together. Right away, they had like created a shirt, and they raised like a ton of money, and there was like a memorial behind the Walmart that I would go to every single day. And I was still working, like I had to work. So I was working remote for the Blaze. So I would go to a Starbucks right by where the incident was. And I was just kind of monitoring like all the journalists there from all over the world, because nothing ever happens in El Paso. So to see like this just flock of people from around every corner of the world there was intense to see. So, So I think like I was just moved by the people. And, like I know you like sadly like we've had tons of mass shootings, right? So they've just increasingly touched a lot of people. But to me, for some reason, El Paso is really different. Probably because I was there my whole life, and how like it's such a tight knit place. So I just was inspired by the people, and I saw this weird sense of peace over everyone after, like, of course, sadness, but like weird, like this unity kind of after what you saw, after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that across the city and I felt really moved. And so I started writing my piece, and I spent one night at the memorial. I think it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday before Trump's visit. So things really kicked off when Trump announced that he was going to show up.
Yeah.
But I feel like that had to do with Beto and the congresswoman who right away were disinviting him, because they claimed that his rhetoric on Twitter was to blame, the anti-immigration sentiment or whatnot, which I just found so gross. I stayed off of Twitter as much as possible during that time, because I just saw like all the politicians using it as a tool just bash Trump, which I like. Okay, he might say some crazy stuff or whatever, things that you don't agree with, but at the end of the day, like, it's up to the individual. We all hear the same thing. We're all in the same country. Not all of us are committing like these horrific things or whatever. Right. So, it's personal accountability. And so anyway, yeah, I was just inspired by the people, and I just wrote about it and what I saw there. And, I purposely left out politics, honestly, because I feel like at that moment, like, the human experience of it all is more important than whatever Beto's tweeting or whatever Trump's tweeting or whatever's going on. So yeah, it was, I'm glad I went back. It was really interesting to see the city react to the mass shooting like that. And then I just, like, as you guys know, Dayton, Ohio, within like less than 24 hours, there's another one there. So it was intense. It was different to view it in the way that I got to, or experience it the way that I got to. I can tell you, so many of my relatives, like, were afraid to go get groceries, for a little while. And, but yeah, it was a crazy, sad, experience, but I'm really glad that I went down there and, wrote about it.
Have you been back since? Like, have you been back since?
No, I haven't been back since.
Okay.
No, I went to the football game. So the shooter's school, so he's from Dallas, where I live now. Mm-hmm. His school is in Plano, and the one school from El Paso. So the high school in El Paso was scheduled to play the Killers school. Oh, wow. So there was like major concern. So the Dallas Cowboys, they lent them their practice facility because it's more secure, and they could do a better job screening. So I went to that game, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, I don't think, like, I've never seen anything like that, right? These students were they bonded over like this horrific event. But it was like a unique healing experience too, because the band did this whole thing together, this whole march. So El Paso went to Plano Senior High School, and they practiced with them, and then they did this unity performance, and then they like exchanged some gift. They exchanged like a gift, and yeah, it was really nice to like leave politics out of it and just like watch communities just heal on their own.
Yeah,
that's the way it is. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I was living down in Orlando for 2.5 years when I finished school. Yep. Well, I'm not going to dox myself. Maybe I was in Orlando. Maybe I wasn't in Orlando. Maybe I went to a school in Nebraska. But I moved back from Orlando actually a week right before the Orlando shooting. So that was weird. But yeah, so I didn't get to experience. Well, man, I just was about to say I didn't get to experience that, but I don't mean it in that way, and that was a slip of the tongue. But yeah, so I saw it was I saw the peripheral kind of stuff like that from friends that I had in Orlando, and didn't get to I didn't experience that thing. But it's really, I mean, that's And I think that's very, like that example of El Paso, like the town coming together, because presumably it would be white people, black people, brown people, everyone, from the whole town comes together. And that's really, like in the piece, you said it really well, but there's no politics, that it is, that's what real America is, right? That we just come together and, there's, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like after 9/11.
And I'll tell you something too that happened. So there was tons of journalists, and I met a Rolling, and I won't say her name because I don't, if she listens to this.
Or his name.
Or his name, yeah, their name. So this person went to El Paso and covered El Paso for about a week, and they came back, and my uncle sent me their article, and this person had a lapse in faith and was just in awe of the community. And this person went from, I guess, former Catholic to a reignited faith. But the publication, which I thought that was really powerful. She showed me what she had written originally, but unfortunately it was taken out of the publication. So I thought that was like so compelling to go cover a story, and you have fallen away from your faith, but then you watch how these people are healing, and they're praying, and they're singing songs, and this was at the memorial, and you're so moved by that you come back to Christ. But then, some publication that leans a certain way says, we don't want that in there. So that was a really interesting kind of detour after that.
They always say that after a tragedy like that, church attendance like quadruples. It's just people reevaluate suddenly what really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's what I mentioned in the piece, is that there's been a super influential church in El Paso for a really long time called Abundant Living Faith Center. And like I said, nothing significant really or tragic really happened there, thank God. And that sermon that he gave that Sunday, right, there was, I think, probably record amount of attendees that Sunday after the shooting. So I try to mention in my piece at the end, like that was the most probably important sermon that he's ever given in all the time that he's been in that city. And he's been so influential. I remember his church, I think, started out with like 5 people, and now it's just thousands of people. So I've tried to like quickly listen to the sermon of what it was that Sunday, because I just felt like he was going to influence El Pasoans and how they go forward. And I think he did. Charles Beeman did like a really excellent job of doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to, it's good to remember that, as much as we maybe started off talking, and maybe I was, calling them our enemies and stuff like that. It's important to remember to leave it on a high note, that we all, we're all humans. Christ died for the sins of all, right? And God, we are all children made in the image of God. So, at the end of the day, politics, they are people, even though they want to destroy us, the leftists, and they do want to harm us. We still have to.
Well, the good news is like when I go to the movie theater that I'm afraid to go to, I'm usually well equipped to protect my family.
Oh,
and those around me that I love.
Yeah. No, I do have to say I strategically picked my seat.
Yep.
And I went with someone who was intimidating and scary looking, and we were
I wasn't with you. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
My family gets annoyed with me because I'm like, when we pick the seats and all, like when you're using the app I'm like, get those seats, get these seats, and
no, they're not. They're in the middle.
Right.
I want to sit in the middle.
Yeah,
like, that's first target.
Right.
You have some situational awareness.
You're the fat fish in the barrel there. But so yeah, man, get a gun and carry it. Protect yourself, because you'll be the first response to stop something crazy like that happening. If you're smart and trained a little bit, get some training.
And be nice to people, because
Yeah.
that's what I
Yes.
took out as the Joker.
Yeah,
That's right.
Be kind.
That's right.
that it was very yes. If only, well, I don't want to give anything away, but you know there was
There's a scene.
there's a scene where it pays to be nice to people.
Cool.
So,
All right.
anyways, do you have anything else that you want to specifically talk about, or that is on your mind or heart to talk to the people, the hundreds of thousands of millions of people that are going to
Right,
listen?
yeah.
You can say no.
I think we covered everything that's been on my mind this week.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on, and it was a blast. It was really fun, and really appreciate taking the time with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Samantha. And we are going to put all of your contact,
Yes.
Stuff in the liner notes. So your Twitter handle and all of that. Probably just your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
So anybody else that wants to follow you on Twitter and check out your work on Blaze, we encourage you guys to do that. And we just really appreciate you giving us your time and your thoughts tonight.
Thank you. You guys too.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll catch you next time on All Out War.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the All Out War podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to know more, you can visit us on the web at alloutwar.us, or you can find us on Twitter at alloutwarcast. Hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.